on a coronavirus. Also advised distant Senator Lindsey telling Fox
virus, the other economy that's locked down because of payment policy.
of the eight estimated dollars. It's to help struggling business and Americans without paychecks. Pandemic details that Democrats not voting. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky tested virus and is now under quarantine. Fellow Republican Mike also because he contacted Paul. Trump had this to say:
terrible thing. Hidden enemy. Hidden enemy.
A U.S. ambassador also testing positive COVID. Andrew Young results on Twitter. He's the U.S. ambassador to West Africa of Burkina Faso, not to be rights by the name. Marriott, thousands of U.S. national, world's largest hotel, with a massive demand, but the company does plan to bring everyone back to work when it can. The U.S. now number 3 behind China and Italy, with nearly 27,000 confirmed coronavirus cases in this country, more than 300 deaths. America is listening to Fox News.
Company that in order to
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
We are TFR. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains through the America Free Radio studio on the Truth Frequency Radio Network. YouTube, you just have to hang out for a section or two because YouTube has crashed. The audio is working, but not the video. Don't worry about it. It's not on our side. It's on their side. Evidently, all the live streamers are down. So we don't really exactly know why. I guess you can see me, but I can't see you. So I can't see the playback. That's fine. I don't need to see me. Thanks for being there. Let me go ahead and give you my Religion of Peace report because we have a lot to cover and very short amount of time to cover it. The Religion of Peace in the last 7 days has conducted a staggering 31 attacks. In these attacks, they killed 148 innocent people. They injured 119 innocent people. No suicide blasts. And they spread their mayhem across 11 countries. Welcome, everyone. Piper and Uyapo Muchane. That's very nice. William, good to see you out there. Good to speak to you today on the phone. Danny, of course, Truth Frequency News is out there. And it's going to be a good program tonight, I can promise, by the way. Lots of great things happening. Let's begin by talking about particularly hazardous objects. And I don't mean the big trucks on the freeway. Particularly large hazardous asteroid is poised to fly by Earth next month. But don't worry, because it doesn't pose any threat to Earth. They bring these up from time to time. This is asteroid 1998 OR2. 1998 is the year that it was discovered. It's going to make a close approach to Earth on April 29th. But have no fear, the hefty space rock has an estimated diameter of about 2.5 miles. That's about the width of the island of Manhattan. While an asteroid that size could wreak havoc if it crashed into Earth, prompting some alarmist and misinformed media reports out there, the asteroid poses no threat, okay? Its closest approach, which will happen at about a quarter or maybe 5 minutes of 6 in the morning Eastern Standard Time, it will be 3.9 million miles from here. That's more than 16 times the average distance between the Earth and the Moon. NASA has classified asteroid 1998 OR2 as potentially hazardous, not because it puts Earth in danger, but because it fulfills certain criteria in the agency's classification scheme. If you want to learn more about this, you can pick up my new book, Asteroid Mining, The Future of Energy. It just came out this week. You should get it. There's two things unique about it. First of all, it puts all of the current technology that's being used in the asteroid mining business and in space exploration in one book. The second thing is the whole book is in color. Yeah, all these really neat spacecraft, either potentially going to be built, being built, or on the artist's table. They're all in color. And you don't find books like that very often. I spent the money to publish the book in color, and this would be a fantastic book to have on your coffee table. So you should have it right next to your copy of Gravity, which, by the way, is a lot more expensive than this book at $30. Anyway, it's next to flybys, not too far away. The year 2048, and again in 2062. Don't worry. They're gonna be even further away. The closest flyby of asteroid 1998 OR2 for the foreseeable future will be on April 16th, 2079, when it will be only 1.1 million miles away. Still, you won't be able to see it even with the best binoculars. NASA and its international partners are actively scanning the skies for potentially hazardous asteroids and are studying ways to deflect an Earthbound asteroid before it strikes. We also cover that in the book. There are several different methods, believe it or not. So for about 1/3 of the 25,000 asteroids thought to be zooming around in Earth's cosmic neighborhood, this is just one of many. Space rocks are designated with the year they're first spotted. The asteroid was spotted not only the same year it descended toward Earth, but also just 8.5 hours before it hit Earth's atmosphere. Scout's goal, which is the spacecraft that's out there, is to continuously monitor the objects listed on the Minor Planet Center's Near Earth Object Confirmation page. We call that NEOCRP. This webpage lists unconfirmed objects, keeps tabs on details like an object's trajectory, and gathers information related to the object's hazard potential. Instead of providing a rigorous probability assessment, Pharmacia said, Scout's automated system produces impact ratings and scores to identify interesting objects to stay ahead of an object's sometimes short observation arc, which means we're not looking all the time. We just don't see things because we're not looking in that direction. We only have a few government telescopes. Some of them are fixed in nature, like Arecibo, and others are contracted to do other things most of the time, so they're not looking in that general direction. The next instrument we have up there, let's see, Oh, the large, the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope. It's currently in progress. From the Cerro Pachón Ridge in north central Chile, the LSST mission plans to spend 10 years surveying the sky to achieve astronomical catalogs thousands of times larger than have ever been compiled. Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet, because there's a proposal in the book and on the website for my Global Telescope Network. I'll explain it to you in just a minute. As of January, this software is designed, let's see, to facilitate astronomical observing projects. As of January, this software toolkit now contains a module for importing targets from the Scout NeoCurp hazard assessment system. Astronomer Joseph Maciero shared recent results from the NEOWISE mission, the asteroid hunting portion of the polar bear-sized wide field infrared survey explorer. NEOWISE has spotted over 190,000 small bodies in space by collecting infrared information as it orbits Earth. And the mission's most recent release of data went public April 11th of last year. The Arecibo Observatory, you know that one, right? It was in several movies, including a James Bond movie. It's in Puerto Rico. Offers a powerful method for scientists to narrow down how an asteroid moves in space and what size and shape it is. Researcher Patrick Taylor said during the conference that by making radar observation, the observatory can determine properties about small bodies. For instance, Arecibo's radar revealed that there are, in fact, 2 small moons orbiting the asteroid 3122 Florence, the last object observed before Hurricane Maria struck the island in 2017. Hurricane Maria damaged Arecibo and the island at large, but the facility is back up and running. Now, let me tell you what the Global Telescope Network is. If you want to know a little bit more about it, I'm not revealing a lot of information about it yet till we get some applications made. You can go to my website, brooksagnew.com, brooksagnew.com, and you can click on the link that says GTN. Not many people know what that means. They're not going to click on it by accident. Maybe they will, I don't know. But you guys now know what GTN stands for. It stands for the Global Telescope Network. And what you will see in there is the basic overall proposal. It goes like this. Earth has a grid of space that through which every single object that has a potential to strike Earth must pass. And that grid, what I've done is I've divided up that grid into small squares, and each square has been given an address, and those addresses will be contracted to private owners of telescopes, 8 inches or larger in diameter. We're looking for Schmidt-Cassegrain style scopes that can gather a lot of light, that are fixed with digital cameras. And what they will do is they'll be given a star for a coordinate. The telescope will pan to that place each night, each clear night. It will take 1,000 photographs, one on top of the other, make what's called a composite image, and will send that image to the database. The database will then log that based on date. Now, what we do is we create a grid of about 10,000 telescopes. 10,000 telescopes around the world. And these 10,000 telescopes are all looking at a specific star. So we get a very clear image of a very small area in space. And then we patch all the images together to make one big image. Now, it's enormous. It has huge amount of file size, but the computer can actually pan across this, and the software is designed to look for objects of light that are moving. Night after night, the same parsec of space, the same arc second of space is shot. night after night, what you'll be able to see, of course, the stars, they ain't moving. They're all still in the same place. They don't move around. But planets and moons and rogue planets and asteroids, they do move around. And if they're putting off light as they get close to these, close to our sun or close to other forms of radiation that put off light, it will show up on these telescopes. And we will be able to, beyond any shadow of a doubt, give the Space Force years, not months, years of warning about potentially hazardous objects that are going to pass through this grid. And if they pass through this grid, they have what's called a shooting solution at Earth. They could get close enough to us. And this Global Telescope Network will save the planet. It will give the Space Force plenty of time to marshal one of several different kinds of countermeasures. Lasers or missiles or shotguns, or maybe even not kinetic, but we can send rockets to them in the shape of small probes. The probes will find the asteroid, attach themselves to the asteroid, and then the rocket will fire. Now, the rocket will fire, and it'll do one of three things. One is, if it takes 1 or 2 or 10 or 20 of these things, you could push, just nudge that object out of the trajectory so that it's not coming. Wow, what did we get here? What is this big thing on my chat? It's the biggest thing I've ever seen. Look at this. William just donated $50 in the top chat. I've never even seen $50 before in the top chat. I didn't even know you could do $50 in the top chat. Look at the size. This thing must be this big. It's unbelievable. Thank you, William, very, very much. That is a big help right there, no doubt about it. By the way, all the money that goes into Top Chat, every penny of it is going to go toward the North Pole Inner Earth expedition. Every single dime. We'll buy equipment, we'll buy tickets, we'll make sure that we get this charter done. And we're trying, of course, to reach the 20 million fans that we have out there for the North Pole Inner Earth expedition. It is designed specifically to be able to bring that mission to pass. Let's see if I can bring it up here. Where are we at? Trying to get to my Nippy page and I don't see it. I got it on here somewhere. I have so many pages for there we go. There it is. Okay, let's put that up there. It's npiee.com. And you need to go there because, you know, it was a good website before. But now it is what we call responsive. It's responsive, which means if you look at it with a phone or a tablet or a PC or a laptop, it will adapt to your screen. It'll move the graphics around to fit your screen. You should go there because I'm reconstructing the site. I spent about 20 hours on it so far. I've got about 80 hours to go. No, I don't charge my time to do this, but we're changing the site. So go check it out, npiee.com. It stands for North Pole Inner Earth Expedition. I'll put the link in the description right down here, right below. You'll see it. I'm just pointing for you YouTubers to see it. And you can go there and check it out. And please keep up with it because we've launched Hollow Earth TV. We're going to start moving more and more video into there. We are practicing with our Zoom webinars so that we can get several of those recordings in there and you can access those as a member. And then also you can share that with your friends. And as we go this summer, yes, we're going this summer to Moscow and into St. Petersburg and then to Murmansk on a dry run. A small group. And that way we keep the cost down, and we're going to take the same path going all the way to Murmansk, and hopefully we get some footage of the ship in port. And we're going to stream live on the video, so that way the 125 or 100 scientists and our 25 crew members, staff members that we take with us, 125 passengers on that ship, we don't make any mistakes along the way. You know, we have a dry run under our belt. We know what bus we're supposed to get on and what hotel we're supposed to stay in and what ship we're supposed to get on, and nothing's a surprise to us because our group is so big and so specialized and from all over the world, Cambridge and Poland and the US and Australia, South America. We don't have a tour guide. There's no tour guide in Russia that can do this. We're it. We are it. So we're making our forward trip this summer. And we're going to put all that information on the website, and you're going to be able to access it if you are a subscriber to Hollow Earth TV. And again, I want to extend my thanks to William for that $50 donation. That is spectacular. That will go a long way, believe me. All we need is about 1 million more of those. No, no, 200,000 would be plenty. So this is what we're doing with the Global Telescope Network, and we're going to try to coordinate this on the private end. We're putting together a grant right now. There is an open for another 3.5 years, an open solicitation available in grants.gov. These things are not easy to do. I've written the grant officer. I don't expect an answer back for a month because my experience with federal grants is the shortest increment of time they understand is 29 days. 29 days, and then they'll ask you a question that you can answer with about 6 words, and you send the answer back to them, and guess what they have? Another 29 days to answer you. And so what they do is they just bleed you to death with time. So it could be a year before we see this. By the way, Zaid, thanks very much for the welcome back. He says, good to be back. I'm glad you're back, because the show can't go on without you. You have to be here every single Wednesday and Sunday, okay? Half Q, nice to see you too. Terry, I couldn't do this without you. MG, always good information. And William, I can't say enough. I'm speechless, absolutely speechless. Cindy, good to see you. Hope springs eternal, she says. Yes, revolutions are built on hope, to quote somebody from Rogue One. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it was Rogue One, but it was also Star Wars. Yeah. All right, let's talk about some deep state motives. By the way, did you catch that recent news conference? This was Secretary of State Pompeo was there, and Trump deferred to him because he had a short amount of time. He had to get back to work, and Trump said, "Well, he has to get back over to what I call the deep state department." Not many people caught that. It was stellar. It was stellar to have him call it the deep state department. Deep state motives. Let me check on my time here to make sure I'm getting pretty close. Got about 7 minutes. A biological engineer with 4 degrees from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, that's up there in Boston, believes the coronavirus pandemic, by the way, when you say those things together, coronavirus pandemic, whew, man, you just need to do some research. I've got some information, because this is where the past meets the future, that comes from 100 years ago. That'll be very, very interesting to you if you're thinking about this at all. Anyway, he believes the coronavirus pandemic is being used by the deep state bureaucrats to further their agenda. And I agree. I think the agenda is to crash the Trump economy. As an MIT PhD in biological engineering who studies and does research nearly every day on the immune system, the coronavirus fear-mongering by the deep state will go down in history as one of the biggest fraud to manipulate economies, suppress dissent, and push mandated medicine. He just wrote this just about 2 weeks ago. Ayura Dai doesn't believe the outbreak itself is a hoax. I don't either. He's urging citizens to follow the guidelines of federal, state, and local governments. I am too. And the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. I am too. Vowing to serve only one term, he says on his campaign site that career politicians exist to serve themselves, not America, and certainly not you. They spend 80% of their time after election to get reelected, and this is true. They spend 20% of their time on the floor or whatever job they are elected to do, and the rest of the time they are across the street at the Rayburn building dialing for dollars. I know. I get the texts every single day on my phone. Every day on the phone I get the texts. Please send us $5. Please send us. The Democrats are catching up with us. Please send us money. What the hell does money have to do with my support? I'm voting. And 50,000 of my friends are voting. You know what that's worth? It ain't worth $5. It's worth a lot more than that. I'm not sending you money. I'm sending you votes. Quit your whining. Always about the money. Oy vey. The real infection here, he said, is the fear and the uncertainty that we need to overcome as an American family to get strong, to move forward. His name is Dr. Shiva. He said, the outbreak provides an opportunity for Americans to improve their immune health. What does it mean to have a healthy and resilient immune system? Well, it means eating right. It means exercise. It means taking some vitamins. Now, a lot of physicians will tell you vitamins don't do diddly squat, but they do, because our food doesn't give us everything that we need, not in the amounts that we need them. For instance, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin C, these, and even vitamin B, which can promote blood circulation. Vitamin E, good for the skin, and eyes, all kinds of things that we do not get because we don't eat. I don't know about you, but most people I know, they have, they're like univores. Forget about omnivores. Univores, they eat the same thing every single day. The guys that work in my office, they bring their lunch every single day in a little insulated lunchbox. They carry it down the hill and set it on their desk and munch on it all day. Same thing every day, right down to the little plastic cup of applesauce. Everything is the same. They're univores. Their body doesn't get the variety of stuff that they need. And you know what? It shows. It shows because they're all packing around way too much weight. They're out of shape. Their skin has a terrible pallor to it. Anything comes along, it's just going to wipe the beggars out. Please keep yourself in good physical shape. All right. Let's change the subject. We have about 1 minute, so I can't really change the subject. Let me tell you that while you're shut in, not moving about, not going out in large groups and having a concert or party or going golfing or playing cards because you're shut down, let me tell you, you should read a good book. You should read a good book. And if you're not a great reader, you should not worry too much about that because I actually read it for you. I have a great selection of books. Go check it out at Brooks Agnew at Amazon, and you can read to your heart's content. If you're not a good reader, don't worry about it. The audiobook is free if you buy the paperback or the Kindle, and I will read it to you. We'll be right back after this. YouTubers hang out. I'll see what I can do about my display, but if you can see me, I'm totally happy with it. We'll be right back.
Discover the extraordinary powers of intuitive healing with pain transmutation, a method of holistic healing for the human soul, body, mind, and emotions. If you are looking for answers and a deep understanding of how to help yourself and the people around you to live a happier, healthier life, this is the right place for you. Learn how to read your soul's history in the Akashic Records. Remove negative energy attachments from your astral body and start the process of inner and outer pain transmutation. Join Pain Transmutation Community to get started on the path of intuitive healing. Change your energetic state. Manifest new and exciting experiences. Re-energize your life. and build inspiring connections with others in our community.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon. Go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWER to get $10 off your first box. As a special bonus, we will include our #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWER.
For 5,000 years, the world was ruled with wooden ships by one man. 242 years ago, a small group of free men crafted a new nation built on liberty and freedom. Global elites have been fighting to destroy this new nation called America ever since. Based on actual events, Charm of Favor tells a true story of how they corrupted the election system. They infiltrated federal agencies and murdered witnesses, judges, and even presidents to keep from being caught. Now, the largest and wealthiest crime syndicate the world has ever known has been drawn out of the shadows. They have killed hundreds of Americans and recently attempted to assassinate half our congressmen. Still, they escape arrest through an almost supernatural charm of favor. Read Charm of Favor and be prepared to open your eyes to what may lie just around the corner. Charm of Favor is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew. We are live, coming to you from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains through the America Free Radio studio on the Truth Frequency Radio Network. This is where the Truth Freaks hang out. If you have missed an episode sometime in the last 4 years, it is easy to fix. All you have to do is go to tfrlive.com, put in /X2 Radio. That's short for X Squared Radio, X2 Radio, and sign up for the archives. I've been asking a lot of questions. Hey, why don't you have Liz Crokin on? Hey, why don't you have Diana West on? I have had them on. You just weren't here. So they're in the archives, and you have all these excellent interviews on the archives of Truth Frequency Radio. So that's what you need to do. You need to go grab those archives and get yourself a subscription. Less than, I don't know, around the price of a cup of coffee. Here's the deal. We have probably 10,000 radio podcasters out there, sort of like us, but not as good. We've been around for 15 years. Some have been around for 15 minutes. They all have the good intentions, but they don't have a record out there. We have thousands and thousands of hours, and that's why this is one of the most recognized voices in the world, because we've been at it so long, and we've been bringing you excellence for so long. The point is that there is a record out there that you can access, and it is the cure for ignorance. All you have to do is consume it, and you'll be better for it, and your friends will too. And that's the way to do it. Go to Truth Frequency Radio at tfrlive.com/X2 Radio and sign up for the archives. Also, this self-imposed quarantine, we call it shelter in place. It's sort of like, jogging in place, only not quite. I get to walk around the block and things like that. And I still drive 130 miles one way to work every morning and then back in the evening. Yeah, I'm wearing a good pickup truck out. That's right. But I'm getting a lot of work done, and this Fortune 500 company is getting to launch their plant, and they're paying me well for it, and I'm happy to do that. But it's all going to end in mid-April-ish, which means that Contact in the Desert, which is the end of April, the 29th of 29th of May to June 2nd, they're going to be in the clear. This is the largest disclosure/UFO conference in the world. There should be 8,000 to 9,000 people this year. And guess who is the main presenter on Saturday night in the big room? Now, it has 1,200 chairs, but we're going to probably fit 1,400 people in there if we can get them in there. And we're going to debut the asteroid mining and future of energy, and going to have some special, oh my gosh, you will not believe this live presentation. It will just freaking blow you away. But you could be at it. It's in Palm Springs. Gorgeous weather, gorgeous resort, and you get to be with, well, all of us, and we would be happy to see you. So don't forget, Contact in the Desert coming up. If you've ever wanted to go see a live event, this is the one to see. Yes, a couple of them have been canceled or postponed, some of the April ones, some of the end of March ones. But don't worry, I am traveling on schedule, right on schedule. So if you have access to my website at brooksagnew.com, and checked out the upcoming events, all of those are on schedule. Not the events themselves, but I will be there. And I will have my books. Yes, I'm giving the Remembering the Future Tour. The Remembering the Future Tour is one of the most sought after lectures in the world right now, and we're giving it also as a webinar. If you can't make the live event, you should grab the webinar. That link is on my website as well. And it's about 2 hours. And then the second class is 2 weeks later for roughly an hour. Sometimes we have some questions. It goes a little longer than that. All of that is included for the $47. You get a copy of the book signed by me, the audio book, and you get a recording of the class that you just took, so you can brush up on those things from time to time and crank up your 2020. All right, we have a caller hanging out there. Let's see if the caller is just listening or if they want to contribute. Let's find out. Here in North Carolina. North California. Welcome to the program. What's on your mind? Huh? See? Might still be out there just listening. You're in California, U.S. You've been on hold for 12 minutes. This is your chance to share your thoughts with the world. If not, then I'm going to put you back on mute and let you listen. Okay. Don't want to flush out. If you want to listen by phone, that's fine. There is another number you can call. By the way, it's 641-793-7117. 641-793-7117. Crystal clarity, and you won't show up on my call board. And then I don't have to feel bad about not having you come on the program. Chat room is alive with people. Thank you so much for all your great thoughts in there. Let me see. Let me scan it real quick. Yes, great thoughts. Our life is postponed. Not really. Come on. There are things you can do. You can do, you can do what I did. You could sit down and finish that book you've been trying to finish and get it published. If you don't know how to publish it, get a hold of me or get a hold of Brad Olson. He's got his own publishing company too. He can help you publish that book. Maybe it's your first one. That would be quite a life goal to get that done. Yeah. Terry says, I was out today and people are not in hibernation. Went and practiced some golf. The course was packed. So just give me with your eyes, yes or no. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Were people practicing social distancing at this golf course, or were they all like huddled around the green and they were at the driving range and talking and stuff, drinking beer? Yes? See, okay. Well, some people were and some people weren't. Maybe the young people were staying away from the old people, or maybe it was the other way around. Possible. Anyway, did you know that 20% of people believe? I have a hard time with this this article, but I'm going to share it with you anyway, not because it's humorous, but because cognitive dissonance always fascinates me. 20% of people believe that an invasion from Mars is imminent. What? Oh. Yeah, we were all out and talking, she says. So, like it was the elbow, it was like, hey, dude, how you doing? Yeah. Oh, good, man, I'm good too. Was it that? Or was it like, hey, we're doing good over here, hey? Yes? Lots of folks out walking today, no social distancing. Well, there was around my block. You know, it's 0.46 miles around these two blocks. And there were a lot of people walking, but they were like walking separate from one another. Yeah, it was cautious walking. It's a question that's been asked since the beginning of space exploration and beyond. Are we alone in the universe? That's a good question. There's been no shortage of UFO sightings across the globe in recent years, so perhaps it shouldn't be a big surprise that a new survey reveals 1 in 5 people fear Earth will be invaded by aliens by the year 2068. Overall, half of the 2,000 British adults who took part in the survey believed in the existence of aliens, and that first contact with an alien life form will occur in the next 50 years. They don't think Martians would have good intentions either. 22% are worried for their lives in the event of an invasion, probably because they saw that movie, Mars Attacks. We come in peace. Ack. But our interstellar neighbors aren't the only threat to humanity. Of those who believe contact with aliens is imminent, 71% expect to face danger from panicked humans amid the chaos. The survey, commissioned by Fox ahead of its War of the Worlds reboot in the United Kingdom, also shows that 71% of believers think Earth has already been visited by aliens at some point in our history. Imagine that. This new survey supports my firm view that there needs to be a government plan for first contact with extraterrestrials, irrespective of whether they turn out to be hostile or friendly. That's my friend Nick Pope. Nick Pope used to be the Minister of Defense for Britain, and his specialty was in UFOs and kind of like the British Project Blue Book. He says, these fascinating findings say as much about distrust of government denials on UFOs as they do about people's belief in extraterrestrial visitation. I couldn't agree more, Nick. Couldn't agree more. Almost 75% of the respondents believe governments across the globe are hiding information about detection or of contact with alien life forms. Additionally, 2 in 3 adults agree with Nick Pope that governments should have a plan in place for first contact with other world beings. When asked what they think will happen if the government learned of an impending alien attack, 58% agree the government would try to keep the information secret to avoid public panic. Sure. Only because aliens are more powerful than you and anything that takes away from your power is a bad thing, right? Conversely, about a quarter of respondents expect the government to warn people. Would you fight or would you flee under an alien invasion? Or would you be like the woman on Independence Day who went up on the roof with the sign saying, "We welcome you," right before they went and vaporized the building? I don't know. What would you do? The survey found that 46% would join a resistance group in the event of an alien invasion, while 20% would leave that battle up to others. Overall, just 23% feel humanity could successfully defend itself against alien attackers. Come on, everybody knows that's easy. All you have to do is that's it for you, man. You're done. Sadly, half of respondents think an invasion would end the human race as we know it. Really? You really think so? Humanity and our 50 gazillion billion viruses and bugs? You think an alien could take his helmet on and off and survive for one day in our environment? Why do you think they fly around up there and they never come down to see us? Because we're sick. Because they can't believe we're walking around and breathing and stuff with all these bugs in our gut and everything. They don't have that. They're sterile, absolutely sterile. When trying to theorize why an alien invasion would visit Earth, learning about other life forms was the most common response among survey participants. I think, actually, it's the women. That's the only reason they would invade us. Because women are awesome. Women are awesome. That's the only reason to invade Earth. That's why I came here. The next two most popular reasons were for scientific research and to steal Earth's remaining natural resources. Oh, please. You think space aliens need oil? Seriously. 1 in 6 think aliens would stop by to undo the damage to the planet caused by humans. 1 in 6. No kidding. Wow. You think they really care about planets that much? You know, there are a lot of planets that don't have humans on them. And I don't think they care about those any less than they do Earth. Interestingly, 29% said they would welcome Martians to Earth if they ever visited, while many have long likened aliens to little green men or creatures with large round heads. 56%, no expectations at all of what extraterrestrial life forms might look like. Good for you. Good for you, because no expectations is probably the best way to approach us, them. Most respondents believe aliens will have a similar appearance to humans. Reasonable. Similar. I heard that they like grapefruit juice. I don't know where I heard that. All right, let's see how much time we got in this segment. Oh, we have 10 minutes and we have some more callers. Let's go ahead and see if Covington, Kentucky wants to contribute. Covington, what's on your mind? Welcome to the program.
Hey, Brooks, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you up there? Are you afraid?
That's a tough question, to be honest. I'm trying not to be, but everyone around me is just, can't ignore when everyone around you is a bunch of hysteria.
We have a little town not far from us called... Go ahead.
That's what I kind of wanted to ask, talk to you about, or get some insight, if you had any, in regards to what's essentially next for the world. Have you gotten any insight on that?
Yeah, I do. This is kind of a dry run. There is something that needed to be accomplished. You have to understand where this virus came from, China, and whether it was released on purpose or accidentally, or on purpose by a dissident or on purpose by the government, it remains to be seen. But here's my insight. at the time that this happened, it was just within a couple, 2-3 days of this event 201. And I'm just going to mute your phone because I got a little bit of background, and then I'll bring you back on when it's time for you to ask the question or respond to the question. But my insight is that China needed to accomplish two things really, really badly. The first is, and they tried everything they knew, they needed to end the protests in Hong Kong. It was really giving them a bad case of the red ass, and it was making them look bad in the public eye, in the public arena. And they really care about that. They care about that so much that they don't even let movies be made bad about them. They don't like people being photographed with a scowl on their face. Nothing that criticizes the Chinese is tolerated, not even Chinese criticizing the Chinese. The second thing that they needed to accomplish is they needed to fight back against the tariffs. They were losing the war. They were losing business. They could see that the business model that they'd been running for the last 20 years, which was to extract all the manufacturing from the civilized world and bring it to China so that they could control the world, because they're the only source of stuff, everything from pharmaceuticals to Harley-Davidson motorcycles. And the only way that they knew to do this without war, because China has lost every single war they ever fought, ever, outside their country. All of them, going back thousands of years. China is terrible at war outside their country, is the pandemic. And that's exactly what they did. Now, I think that this pandemic, this particular disease, was designed to be much worse than it is. It was in China. Asians respond terribly to this thing. But the rest of the world, not so much. We can fight it off unless we're very old. Okay, I'll bring you back in and give your thoughts. But that's my basic insight. What do you think?
So, essentially, where my mind goes in regards to this is not directly towards the virus itself, but in regards to the sort of changes that will be made amongst the world governments and different types of societies that are in the world.
I think you're dead on the money.
The other day.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. I think you're dead on the money right there. You're right. These kinds of events are watershed moments for taking more control, and that is my worry as well.
So, yeah, essentially, I read an article the other day, and it's probably the most genuine thing I've read since this all started. It was written by Yuval Noah Harari. I'm sure you've heard his name before. Doctor of History at the University of Jerusalem. He wrote an article in the Financial Times a few days ago, and basically, the thing that he said that would be, the deciding. The two crucial choices, I guess, people are going to have to make in these times right now are the choice of whether they're going to tolerate between totalitarian surveillance and citizenship empowerment, and the second being a nationalistic isolation versus global solidarity. Do you think that, do you see either or leaning towards one side or the other?
No, I don't. In fact, I think nationalism, decentralizing the power structure, this is basically what we call nationalism. You have a strong Italians and strong Hungarians and strong Polish and strong Canadians and strong Americans, actually lends itself to solidarity more than a one world government. Because in a one world government, you would have one ideology, you'd have one narrative, but then you would have an infinite number of tribal factions resisting that global government in some way. When you have nationalism, at least you've decentralized the power, and then you give each nation some representation, and now you've got a more insulated society. So I think it's a combination of both. I think, and we've seen the result of it in just 3 years, with President Trump going out there Of course, he's saying America's the best, but he's also saying, by the way, you should be pro-Poland. You should be pro-Brazil. You should be pro-Germany. Stop all this nonsense of trying to form a one-size-fits-all bank that rules the world. That's what I think is the key to world peace.
You think the key to world is decentralizing the banks?
Oh, yes, I definitely think so. In fact, I think after we decentralize the banks, if we can link them back to precious metals, something that we're talking about value instead of a fiat arbitrary assignment of value. And by the way, when you do that, you give the system itself, you give the banking system itself value, which was never meant to be. The banking system is just supposed to be a system of exchange, but it has become a behemoth, a hoarder of value. It determines who gets money and who doesn't get money, and it was never supposed to be that in the first place. So hopefully what we do is our technology gets to a point where we can exchange value between one another without money. That would be the golden age.
I agree with all that, certainly. And I definitely think, in the coming years with the Internet of Things, we'll definitely be seeing that a more decentralized bank system and a more individualistic people having the ability to essentially, not rule themselves, but, allow them to sustain themselves without having any sort of strings attached from, big banks and credit companies and all sorts of other,
you bring up a very very good point. Now, in this fake pandemic, we have seen some hoarding, but I'm sure you've seen the same thing I've seen. When you go to the grocery, and I went yesterday, there's no big rush. People aren't buying enough for a month. They're buying enough for a few days. Why? Because they know the grocer is going to have another supply when they go back on Wednesday. And that mentality is beginning to set in, that there's more than enough for everybody. And there's no reason to have haves and have-nots. That's slowly going away.
I agree 100%. My last thing I want to ask is in regards to U.S. society in general. Do you think there will be any major shifts that will affect citizens to a point where they will have to, adapt to, just living in a different society after this?
Well, certainly this is a dry run, and later, I've got about 30 seconds left in this segment. If you want to hang out through the break, you can, but later in the program, I'm going to talk about what happened 100 years ago when we weren't ready for this, and we didn't have a method of communicating one with another. Hang out through the break, and we'll discuss this a little more after the break, because it's a really, really important subject about how society adapts to these stresses and toxins that are put into our society. We'll be right back after this. Don't go away. More X Squared Radio coming at you right after this.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm 10 years old. I'm one of the millions of children born to parents suffering from the sheeple virus. Symptoms include the inability to think for oneself, the attention span of a goldfish, and a strong belief in government and the mainstream media. It is estimated that 1 out of every 2 children are being raised by parents infected with the sheeple virus. But there is a cure. For as little as 19 cents per day, you can become a TFR supporter and help children like me get their daily dose of truth. Together, we will make sure every child has protection from deception.
Needs work, say Democrats, and they voted no. I'm Jane Metzler, Fox News. A Republican coronavirus response bill needed 60 votes to move forward in the Senate, did not get them. That vote tied at 47.
Even before details were finalized, an expansive economic stimulus bill designed to respond to the coronavirus pandemic stalled in the Senate, failing to win any Democratic support. The measure, expected to total nearly $2 trillion, could provide direct payments to taxpayers, billions for hospitals, and loans and other incentives for small businesses and large corporations. Democrats, however, argue the Republican proposal failed to protect workers, describing the outline as a slush fund for big business. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, ahead of the failed vote, signaled House Democrats will unveil their own legislation this week. In Washington, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Help is on the way to areas hit hardest by the coronavirus outbreak. That promise this evening from President Trump.
The president says New York, California, and Washington state will get the assistance they have been asking for from the National Guard.
They're fully on alert. We've signed what we had to sign, and it's been activated.
The president also said major disaster declarations will further help those states. Also, supplies that have been requested are on the way.
The supplies en route to California and New York will be delivered within the next 48 hours.
The president says they are states with the most cases, but all the states need help, and the federal government plans to be there. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
The numbers out of New York alarming. 4,800 new coronavirus cases, more than 15,000 overall. A newspaper in upstate New York reporting former movie mogul and convicted sex offender Harvey Weinstein is one of those new cases. America is listed.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Interesting question in the last hour out of Kentucky, and I'm going to answer that in just a second. Just wanted to let you know that yesterday's second class of the webinar that I give on Remembering the Future, which is a second chance mentoring class designed to teach you how to manifest the future and give you some hard ground skills in journaling. The class went very well. The class was very satisfied with it. I have been on the website at brooksagnew.com if you follow the webinars link. There's another one coming up in May, but I am strongly considering doing one in April. And just let me think about it tonight. And then tomorrow I will probably post it because we've had a couple of postponements with respect to the Human Origins Conference and the Beyond the Matrix Conference in Sedona, although I am flying on schedule. I'm thinking very strongly of giving the Remembering the Future lecture on schedule in those locations from the hotel by webinar. So since you can't travel and you don't want to buy the plane tickets and you don't want to spend the money on the hotel and then be disappointed because you can't gather, I'm thinking of going ahead and having the lectures anyway, only making them available to you online. And that way you can sit in the safety of your home in your pajamas with your popcorn or whatever, and you can get the same 90-minute lecture for a fraction the cost that you would have at those live events. Chances are that you had set aside the time to see us in April, and even though these events have been postponed to October, maybe you won't have the time in October. It's just quite possible. So I want to give you the opportunity to see those lectures anyway. So if you have a thought about that, leave it in the chat room tonight, or you can write me at my website. There's a contact form. You can send me your interest on there, and I'll go ahead and post it. We'll select a Saturday at noon Eastern time, which is 9 o'clock Pacific Coast time. Seems to be a pretty convenient time for most people on a Saturday. They don't have to get up real early or stay up really late. We'll make it a reasonable price so that you can participate, and that way you can have the recording on your own, and when you need a touch-up or a brush or a refresher on certain of the more complex aspects of the lecture, you can get it on your own. So let me talk it over with my staff, and we'll see what we can do. All right, let me answer that question, because the question was, do you see any changes in society because of what's going on right now? And the answer is yes, I do, because, this has happened before, but it happened in 1918. It was a very similar situation, except that the pandemic was real. The virus was a very, very nasty player called the Spanish flu. And unlike now, that strain would put you down. Literally, it was killing people from the time they became symptomatic to the time they died. In many cases was only 24 hours. In some cases, it came on so quickly that people's eardrums would burst within 12 hours. It was really crazy. And 500 million people were infected in a very short amount of time. The 1918 influenza pandemic was the most severe pandemic that has ever been recorded. I'm sure there may have been ones before that, but they weren't recorded because it killed so many people. It was caused by an H1N1 virus with genes of avian origin. Although there is not universal consensus regarding where it originated, what we realize is, in the United States, it was first identified in military personnel in the spring of 1918. It is estimated that about 500 million people, or 1/3 of the world's population, became infected with this virus. The number of deaths was estimated to be at least 50 million worldwide, with about 675,000 occurring in the United States. That means more fatalities due to the flu than World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the Afghanistan and Iraqi wars, just from the flu. Mortality was high in people younger than 5 years old, and then this really active age group of 20 to 40, and of course 65 years and older. But the high mortality in healthy adults, including those in the 20 to 40 year age group, was a unique feature of this pandemic. Mostly this age group was affected because this was the age of the population that was working. These are the ones that were fighting wars. They were moving around the world. They were crammed into small spaces like barracks and rail cars and public gatherings and in ditches and in tight quarters. With the 1918 H1N1 virus, it was synthesized and evaluated. The properties that made it so devastating are not well understood. It often killed within 24 hours and spread so fast that entire cities were infected within weeks. The only city that was spared was San Francisco because the mayor shut down the city. Bars, restaurants, concerts, meetings, and all roads and ports in and out were closed off. Sound familiar? It does. Now you know where that strategy came from. There was no vaccine to protect against influenza infection. There were no antibiotics to treat secondary bacterial infections like pneumonia that can be associated with influenza. We all have that bacteria in our lungs most of the time, and it just doesn't flourish without pools of mucus under which to thrive. Control efforts worldwide were limited to non-pharmaceutical interventions such as isolation and quarantine, good personal hygiene, use of disinfectants, which were also limited in those days, and limitations of public gatherings, which were applied rather unevenly. A person or two got through, the entire region was swept with the infection. And this just happened 70 miles from here, actually 44 miles from here in Lincolnton. No cases. And then somebody left quarantine in New York. And they came down here and visited old people in a rest home in Lincolnton, North Carolina, and they infected the old people in that rest home. Probably everyone in there is at risk, and they're probably going to have some deaths in there this next week. That's crazy. That is crazy that people did that. In this instance, we learned that an enforced quarantine will stop the disease from spreading until a treatment can be developed. The world currently has tools at its disposal, along with the most brilliant minds in history, and the solution will be discovered. I can tell you this, Earth explorers, 14 days will tell. 14 days will tell. We are very lucky that this flu is not as deadly as the Spanish flu of 1918. But then the people of Italy may have a different opinion of that. Society is changing because we realize that in order to save humanity, sometimes we have to stop humanity. But as I said before, the origin of this bacteria or this virus is pretty well known. Wuhan, China. We also know that Wuhan, China is a location of the Chinese bioweapons lab. We know that they were working on this because it was discussed in the Event 201, which was a meeting of the minds of the United Nations, which included Bill Gates and other representatives, where they discussed this very thing of 60 to 65 million people being infected and millions dying, which of course hasn't happened. But it just, when you start putting this together, the fact that this meeting took place, that the vaccination program in Wuhan took place, that the bioweapons lab is located in Wuhan, that the Chinese were exported from Wuhan and ended up in Italy and in Seattle and in Southern California and in New York. And these are the places where the disease broke out. And the disease was well underway for upwards of 60 days. 60 days. Before China ever said a word to anybody. We didn't find out a thing until January 24th. January 31st, President Trump responded and said, that's it. No more people from China. You can't come to the country. Had he not done that, and by the way, he was excoriated for that. Had he not done that, on January 31st, we'd be talking a very different story right now. A very different story indeed. 14 days will tell. Will the federal government take more power, take more control with this? It's difficult to say. I think under any other president, absolutely, because that is the history of tyrants. The history of tyrants is when you have a disaster, you go for martial law. You go for as close as you can get to it because the global syndicate wants their planet back. And they've been using presidents and prime ministers and, priests to do this for hundreds of years. And a lot of people ask me this, and I think this is where, basically the caller in Kentucky was going earlier. Yes, the final hour, I'm gonna uplift all this. So hang out. You definitely need to hang out and don't go away, because there's going to be a lot of cool stuff. In the march toward martial law is something that really is often ignored by the general public. And I mean, it's labeled quackery, it's labeled conspiracy theories. I mean, good Lord. You can't count the number of websites that will jump on this and make it something that it's not. But what's happening in this country is exactly what our founders warned us could happen. Not saying it has happened. And martial law is something they took very, very seriously. By the way, people ask me sometimes, well, what is martial law? I mean, aren't we living under it right now? Well, if you're looking for a definition, then martial law basically means using the state or the national military force to enforce the will of the government on the people. Yes, I know you've sent me all kinds of videos about train loads of military equipment going this way or going that way. Listen. There's something not on that military equipment. None of it has a UN on it. It's all our stuff. That $1.5 trillion we spent over the last 27 months to rebuild our military, that's it. That is it on those trains. We bought that stuff. Now, that's just all hardware. And they are moving some military personnel all around, but they're moving the hardware around. It's in Manhattan. It's in LA. It's in New Orleans. That's our stuff. Those are the good guys, okay? Those are the good guys. Constitutional freedoms and liberties are temporarily suspended during martial law. Are they now? No, not really. Maybe the freedom to move around, maybe the freedom to assemble in groups over 10 or 50 or 1,000. I mean, you're not seeing concerts. You're not seeing sports events. You're not seeing political rallies for a reason. For a reason. It is not to take away your rights, for crying out loud. It's to stop this spread. And it's only temporary. Our hope is always that a decent and just leader who seeks to protect a peaceful society from large, violent, and internal attacks will use this power. Our fear is that a tyrant will try to protect himself from being deposed by crushing the people with that military. Fortunately, Americans will refuse to be mobilized against Americans. Remember the standoff at Bundy Ranch when a few BLM mercenaries wrestled the Bundy's cattle and threatened to massacre them? You remember that? The armed cowboys by the hundreds that rode up to defend or to defy the barricades of the mercenaries, to confront them. And the mercenaries backed down. Because that's what Americans do. We will not be oppressed by mercenaries. You cannot stand in front of us with automatic weapons and helmets and body armor and face us down. No nation can do that. It is not the armed forces that keeps us free inside this country. It's the armed American that keeps us free inside this country. There is a history of martial law in the United States. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. In one way or another, there have always been tyrants who have used the power of government to suppress and control the public. But if we're looking for specific examples of martial law, we got to go all the way back to 1774, when it wasn't an American at all. It was King George, and he used it to suppress the American colonies. They were called the Coercive Acts of 1774, known as the Intolerable Acts in the American colonies. It was a series of 4 laws passed by the British Parliament, not the Americans, to punish the colony of Massachusetts Bay for the Boston Tea Party. The 4 acts were the Boston Port Act, the Massachusetts Government Act, the Administration of Justice Act, and the Quartering Act. The Quebec Act of 1774 sometimes included, but it's just basically these 4. So, understandably, the colonists, they didn't like that stuff. Nope, and they didn't approve of the coercive acts. Yet the petitioning of Parliament by individual colonies had already proved futile. Parliament did not anticipate the colonies coming to Boston's defense, and with good reason, as this was the first instance of mass colonial unification. You remember what I was talking about? Nationalism unifies people. It pulls people together. And when one nation and another nation pull together, you have 4 times the might, not twice. It squares in energy. Unlike previous controversial legislation such as the Stamp Act and the Townshend Act, the Parliament did not repeal the coercive acts. Hence, Parliament's intolerable policies sowed the seeds of American rebellion, and it led to the outbreak of the American Revolutionary War in April of 1775. The seeds of martial law in America, they were not planted by Americans. They were planted by foreign power, shutting down the colonies. This led quickly to the Revolutionary War, although there were many reasons for the war, including resistance to taxes imposed by the British Parliament and blah, blah, blah. The main thing to consider that has never been successfully implemented by the American government against Americans. Never. The Civil War, yes, there was martial law implemented by the president, but it wasn't nationwide. Okay? The most egregious examples of martial law can be found throughout the Civil War by Lincoln. While today's history books have rewritten the real reasons for the war or many atrocities committed by President Lincoln, the facts of what really happened cannot be disputed. On September 15, 1863, President Lincoln imposed congressionally authorized martial law. While history contends the war was fought to end slavery, the truth is Lincoln, by his own admission, never really cared about freeing the slaves. In fact, Lincoln never intended to abolish slavery. His main interest was centralizing government power and using the federal government to exert complete control over all citizens. The abolishment of slavery, it was an afterthought of the war. It actually took the 13th Amendment to end slavery, since Lincoln actually only freed Southern slaves, not slaves in states loyal to the Union. During the Civil War, Lincoln continually violated the Constitution, in some cases suspending the entire Constitution that he swore to uphold. Here's the things he did. He suspended the writ of habeas corpus without the consent of Congress, which, by the way, the president can still do under states of emergency. It means that people can be incarcerated without bail. That's what the writ of habeas corpus is. He shut down the newspapers and the free press. He raised troops without the consent of Congress. He closed courts. He even imprisoned citizens, newspaper owners, even elected officials, without cause and without a trial, simply so they couldn't vote against him. Our founders were very wary of using the military to enforce public policy. That's why posse comitatus is in place. Where is it in place and where is it not in place? That's a great question. It is not in place on the waters. Posse comitatus does not apply to the waters. Okay, the Coast Guard is a branch of the U.S. military that uniquely operates on the waters. The oceans, yes, but also the major river systems. If they really wanted to put martial law in place and they really wanted to use the U.S. military to enforce law, they would use the Coast Guard. They would use the Coast Guard, and they would put their prisons on the water. They would use cruise ships or barges or something. And then posse comitatus could be avoided. It could be used on the water. And by the way, a lot of those assets are being moved into position as we speak. The first thing you will likely see is a declaration of a state of emergency. Bingo. It just happened. It just happened. This may be done nationally in cases of large-scale terrorist attacks like 9/11, or it could happen in the wake of a natural disaster like Hurricane Katrina, or a tornado, or a earthquake, or a solar flare, or something like that. Currently, there are 136 federal statutes that are allowed under this temporary state of emergency. I read them all, and I can tell you there are 6 or 7 of them that apply to this particular pandemic. It allows state officials to order evacuations and forcefully remove citizens from their homes, suspend certain laws, confiscate firearms if they're being brandished publicly. They're not going to come to your house and take your firearms, although some mayors have actually talked about that. It ain't going to happen. If you're brandishing them publicly and it's determined that the situation's a little bit too volatile and we probably need to collect the firearms in order to keep something bad from breaking out, maybe that would happen. I doubt it. If they didn't take the firearms from the cowboys on the Bundy's ranch, they're not going to take your firearms because we outnumber them by 1,000 to 1. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans police did that, and other things. Travel restrictions, which we're undergoing right now, mandatory curfews, which some areas are undergoing right now, and let's see, what else is there? Oh, automatic search and seizure without a warrant. Yes, that could be done if you look suspicious, you look like you're packing. Most of the cops already know who the bad people are, and they already know that they have records, and they're probably going to stop those people and ask them if they're carrying a weapon. When martial law can be enacted is actually a pretty touchy subject. It has never been really done in the United States on a large scale. And it's because our founders never intended the federal government or a standing army to be permitted to take such actions inside the United States. We can go into your country and do it. We can shut your country down. We can shut your utilities down, your roads down, blow your bridges up, but not ours. That can't happen. Most people are aware of posse comitatus, and they're never going to permit federal troops to be used inside America. We're very touchy about that. We'll use the National Guard, but those are local guys. Those are weekend guys. Those are dentists and school teachers. They're cops. They're farmers. They're students. They just need the extra money. They're not going to allow federal troops on U.S. property to operate like a soldier in law enforcement. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back at the bottom of the hour. Don't go away. More X Squared Radio right after this. By the way, thank you very much, Smiley B, for the $5 donation. I'll give another acknowledgement when we come right back.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination made from garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite feeds our body with the right nutrients to keep us healthy. Just listen to what Arthur has to say.
I was just calling to tell you what a great product you have. I had used this about 10 years ago after I had congestive heart failure. And it fixed me up and got me going for the last 10 years. Lately, I've been having heart trouble again. So I placed another order because this was the only thing that ever worked. I just wanted to let you know that you have a great product.
To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Your home has needs. It needs a healthy, dry environment all year round. Start by getting rid of the worst air in the basement and crawl space, where the problems begin and make the whole house sick. Introducing the new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. It has advanced technologies to continuously reduce moisture, mold, and odors, and expel radon, gases, and pollutants. And now, Wave units include carbon monoxide detection to automatically expel air at a high rate and send you an alert. It also has an app so you can remotely monitor the conditions. Wave is a comprehensive, maintenance-free, affordable solution that will transform your entire home. Protect your home and family with what it needs. Give it a new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. For more information, call 888-717-WAVE. That's 888-717-WAVE. Or go to dryhealthyhome.com. That's dryhealthyhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
For millennia, mankind has been searching for answers to the big questions, such as, where did the universe come from? Where did we come from? Why are we here? Are we alone? And just what the heck is the Sasquatch all about? I can't promise you answers, and neither can the Woo Crew, but they invite you to join them Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight in the UK, for Freaky Friday, exclusively on Truth Frequency Radio. Spirituality, multiverse, quantum mechanics, the occult, and so much conspiracy analysis that it will make your mind melt. Take my word for it. Freaky Friday. It's more than a show. It's a way of life. I am Stephen Hawking, and I am proud to be a Wookiee.
Real people, real radio.
Initiating the truth frequency.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Hey, thanks for being out there, all my good friends at Truth Frequency Radio Network. This is, by the way, if you go to TalkStream Live is the clearinghouse for just about all the big podcast feeds in the country. Fox News is there, Blaze is there, Mark Levin. I mean, on and on and on. Truth Frequency is in the third row. This is good. We're way, way up there. Lots of fine hosts here. Lots of fine traffic. And we are humbled and we are so pleased to be able to drive some of that traffic to that fine network. Please support it. TFRlive.com, TFRlive.com. When you get there, put in /X2 Radio. All my archives are there. And please join and listen to archives while you're working on your favorite project at work. Just put your little earbuds in and you can listen. And you can listen in your car. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. You get access to all that. And it streams right from the servers. You don't have to download it at all. Let's talk a little bit about the gold-backed dollar. You know, a lot of people talking about this. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Are you familiar with the Robinhood app? The Robinhood app. You can get it You just go to your phone and go to the App Store and go to Robinhood and add that. You got to put a little bit of information in there, not a whole lot, but it allows you to do commission-free trading. Yes, and you can buy and sell virtually any stock. Don't recommend it for day traders because they're a little slow on the trades. It's not something that that you can sit there and, play stocks like that. You can't do penny stocks. But there are stocks for everybody. And I can tell you that right in the last couple of weeks, since the economy has been artificially suppressed because of the attacks against the Trump economy, it has driven the stock market down, and it's driven the price of a lot of my stocks down. And so what I've been doing is buying. Yeah, I've been buying stocks for 75, sometimes 80% discounts. And it's going to be really good in about a month or two when that stuff rebounds and comes back. And believe me, right now, the slingshot is being stretched back. So if you can get in there and get in the stock market with a few hundred or a few $1,000s, you're going to see one whale of a return. You might have taken a hit on your 401k because it's all involved in, mutual funds and bonds and blah, blah, blah. But individual stocks, I'm just telling you, a few $1,000s in the right place can turn into a few $100,000 pretty easily in the right place. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm just saying, never let a good crisis go to waste. And neither does the president. Because, his standard stump speech at CPAC this year was a little intriguing if you had a chance to watch it. Oh, it had all the rah-rah in it. Oh, by the way, I'm going to CPAC next year. X Squared Radio is going to be on Radio Row next year. You can count on it. But the speech was actually kind of nuanced. Global cooperation, dealing with other countries, getting along with other countries is good, very important, blah, blah, blah. But there's no such thing as a global anthem, a global currency, or a global flag. That doesn't happen. This is the United States of America that I'm representing, he said. There's keen insight in there that could just maybe transform all of our lives. America and the world. No global currency. Very interesting because they're really pushing for one, a reserve currency. Was this, with the poetic observation that there is no such thing as a global anthem or a global flag, just, a trope? Or could it contain a political portent with potential high impact on world financial markets? I thought the same thing. So let's drill down just a little bit. There is a global currency of sorts. It depends on what commodity you're trading, but it's called the US dollar, okay? Most international trade, it's not priced in yuan, it's not priced in euros, it's priced in dollars. The Bretton Woods International Monetary System invested the dollar, which then was defined as, and internationally was, legally convertible to gold, $35 an ounce with global currency status. France's then finance minister, later its president, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, called the reserve currency status of the dollar, its status along with gold as global currency, as exorbitant privilege. By this, the president of France was alluding to the fact, as he summarized, that as American economist Barry Eichengreen summarized, and I quote, "It costs only a few cents for the Bureau of Engraving and Printing to produce a $100 bill. But other countries had to pony up $100 of actual goods in order to obtain one. That privilege, which made great sense during the period immediately after World War II, became a curse. And in 1971, you'll recall, good old President Nixon, under the influence of his Svengali-like Treasury Secretary John Connolly, he actually suspended temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold. That closure proved durable instead of temporary. It wasn't temporary, it was permanent. The dollar became and remains the world's global currency, but it's backed by nothing. What had been an exorbitant privilege devolved into an exorbitant liability. And that's the issue. That is the issue. In other words, if President Trump wishes to address America's merchandise trade deficit, then he will find that allowing the dollar to be used as the global currency is the real snake in the economic woodpile. The dollar's burden as the international reserve currency, not currency manipulation by our trading partners or bad treaties, is the true villain in the ongoing melodrama of lousy job creation. Mueller's Wall Street Journal column enumerates 3 options open to President Trump. Listen closely to these 3 options. First, you could muddle along under the current dollar standard, a position supported by resigned foreigners and some nostalgic Americans, among them Brian Riley, William Wilson at the Heritage Foundation, and James Petokis of the American Enterprise Institute. These think tanks, these brilliant guys that sit around the table and say, wouldn't it be neat if we could do this? And by the way, don't forget to pay me my $250,000 a year salary for being so brilliant. The second is, we could turn the International Monetary Fund, which is, in my mind, the second most corrupt financial institution the world has ever known. We could turn that fund into a world central bank, and it could issue this strategic drawing rights bond, which they've been working on since the late 70s. And it was actually proposed in 1943 by Keynes, since the 1960s by Robert A. Mundell, and in 2009 by Zhao Xiaochuan, governor of the People's Bank of China. The drawbacks are that this kind of drawing rights bond is highly political, and it can be used to make or break nations. Once you control a nation's currency, you control that country. That's why we don't like it. We don't like the SDR very much at all. Third, now listen closely. You could adopt a modernized international gold standard, as proposed in the 1960s by Roif, and in 1984 by his protege Louis E. Lehman. You remember Lehman Brothers. And then Representative Jack Kemp. Jack Kemp was a vice presidential candidate. Smart guy, too. To muddle along, kind of antithetical to Trump, don't you think? It's not really make America great again. It's like make America muddle along again. It's not his style. It would destroy his crucial commitment to get the economy growing at 3+%, because if you print more money, you just inflate the dollar compared to everything else, and it becomes worth less and less and less. It also is the essential ingredient for balancing the federal budget while rebuilding our infrastructure and military. Yeah. But to turn the IMF into a world bank would, of course, be terrible. It would be terrible for everyone. It would be an anathema to Donald Trump, to his legacy, and it wouldn't be done. So that leaves the third option: to adopt a modernized international gold standard as proposed in the 1960s. To this one, we should add, as Forbes.com contributor Nathan Lewis has shrewdly observed, the removal of tax and regulatory barriers to the use of gold as a currency. Right now, you can't do that. Silver, not so. Silver is much cheaper. It's kind of off the grid a little bit. I can tell you dead, absolute truthful that I have taken silver bars and used it as currency and gone and bought stuff. This computer that I'm using right here, I paid for with silver and several other things. Easy to do business in silver because it's a good steady metal. It keeps its price pretty well, between $16 and $30 an ounce. It's affordable. It's not scary. There seems to be plenty of the bars around, even though it's probably just as rare as gold is now because it's being used industrially. I have repeatedly observed Donald Trump show a strong affinity for gold. Not just Trump Tower, not just in the elevators, not just, in his decorating. Yes, all of that. But he has also shown a keen intuitive grasp of how the gold standard was crucial to having made America great. He said, we used to have a very, very solid country because it was based on a gold standard. And I believe that. He said it would be tough to bring it back because we don't have the gold. Other places have the gold. Now, he said bringing back the gold standard would be very hard to do, but boy, would it be wonderful. We'd have a standard on which to base our money. Right now, it is based on fuzzy ones and zeros. He's been misled to believe this because I can tell you we do have the gold. Other places have the gold. In fact, the United States, Germany, and the IMF together have about as much gold as the rest of the world combined. And America has well more than Germany and the IMF combined. We have the gold. Bringing back the gold standard would not be very hard to do. Now, we know the gold's selling right now for what, $1,400-$1,500 an ounce. Not terrifically high. It's kind of been creeping up a little bit. Maybe it's shorted, maybe it's not. That's kind of beside the point. Because if we decide to gold back the dollar, gold goes to $10,000 an ounce, like that. I mean, instantly it's going to go to $10,000 an ounce, but it won't stay there very long. It's not going to stay there very long. In a very short amount of time, months, maybe weeks, you're going to see the price of dollars per gold go back down. And the reason is that the inflation that we're seeing now, because there's so many dollars in circulation compared to gold, that's what's going to make the price go up initially. But it's a small amount of gold per dollar or per $100. It's not actually $100 worth of gold. It may be a fraction of that amount. The point is that it's linked to the metal. People who had thought themselves condemned to be sharecroppers in the Alabama Cotton Belt or day laborers in the boot heel of Italy found opportunities they could never have imagined. The French called this period Les 30 Glorieuses. The 30 glorious years. Germans spoke of the Wirtschaftswunder, the economic miracle, while the Japanese more modestly referred to the era of high economic growth. In the English-speaking countries, it is more commonly being called the Golden Age. The Golden Age was the first sustained period of economic growth in most countries since the 20s. But it was built on far more than just pent-up demand and the stimulus of post-war baby boomers. The unprecedented productivity growth around the world made the age possible. In the 25 years, by the way, that ended in 1973, the amount produced in an hour of work roughly doubled in the US and Canada, tripled in Europe, and quadrupled in Japan. Ever since the Golden Age vanished amid the gasoline lines of 1973 Jimmy Carter, political leaders in every wealthy country have insisted that the right policies will bring back those heady days. Voters have been trained to expect that their leaders can deliver nothing more than ordinary. They're going to be very disappointed. Levinson, whose column uses Golden Age as its a leitmotif, strangely fails to make the connection between or even explore the fact that the era he calls the Golden Age correlated precisely with America being on a form of gold standard. Same thing with Rome. You remember Rome? They had two sons. One got Istanbul, and the other one took Rome, or Constantinople, or whatever you want to say. One stayed on the gold standard, and one did not. One died away in 100 years, and the other lasted for 1,000 years because of the gold. The modified gold standard, known as the Bretton Woods system, would stabilize everything. It would be the outcome of Trump's following his instincts and going for the gold. It would be prosperity. Former Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan just provided a barely noticed big reveal in an interview with the World Gold Council's Gold Investor Chairman Greenspan, stating this. Listen closely. I view gold as the primary global currency. And he went on to explicitly reveal, for the first time, to my knowledge anyway, and I quote, "When I was chair of the Federal Reserve, I used to testify before U.S. Congressman Ron Paul, who was a very strong advocate of gold. We had some interesting discussions. I told him that U.S. monetary policy tried to follow signals that a gold standard would have created, and I think that's exactly what he did. The period of following signals that a gold standard would have created, called the Great Moderation under President Clinton, was one of the most equitable, prosperous in modern American history. The era saw the creation of over 20 million jobs, robust growth, converted the federal deficit into a surplus. It was, if only virtually rather than institutionally, a golden age. Even though it was under President Clinton, it was led by Newt Gingrich. The 2 years of the Clinton presidency that are considered this golden age, 2 years, were under Newt Gingrich's leadership as Speaker of the House. The first 2 years of the Clinton presidency were an unmitigated disaster. In fact, it was so bad that when the midterm elections took place in 1994, the Democrats were wholesalely kicked out of Congress and the Senate. And when Newt Gingrich, who for the first time had nationalized the congressional races, never been done before, the contract with America, he swore things he would get done in his first 100 days, and guess what? He did them. He did them. They were done. And they balanced the budget. They balanced the budget. It was Congress, not the president. The president went along for the ride so he could keep the office. As Paul Martin Foss of the Menger Center astutely points out, the Federal Reserve Board currently has 3 vacancies. If Trump fills those vacancies with 3 sophisticated gold standard advocates from the short list of Louis E. Lehman, Dr. Judy Shelton, let's see who else we got here. Former presidential candidate Steve Forbes and John Allison, former CEO of BB&T. The president would create a super beachhead team at the Fed to seriously restore equitable prosperity. I think it's going to happen. These appointments would be the safe and sure first steps out of economic stagnation for America. Couple these with the White House Team B to plan the enactment of the Jack Kemp Gold Standard Act and removal of the regulatory and tax barriers to using gold as a currency. And then you watch an American economic miracle take place, and we will never turn back. Let me tell you, Mr. President, No such thing as a global currency? Nah. The dollar is the global currency. You want prosperity? You heed Chairman Greenspan and do not just view, but restore gold as the primary global currency. And let me tell you something. You replace the dollar with gold as the global currency to make America great again. Because we have the gold. We have the gold. And we can make this happen. And we should probably take advantage of this time, because this is a rare time. It's a time when the economy is on its butt. It's being vastly slowed and controlled by global forces. I'm amazed at what can be done here. And it could be done right now. It could be done under the dead of night, when nothing is moving. And MG says, as long as 5G goes away. Yeah, I think, 5G can be bad and 5G can be good. 5G can be good for cell phones. 5G can be bad because it's so close to the frequency, just a couple harmonics away from being able to manipulate human DNA or how human DNA reacts to certain particles, maybe in chemtrails or in drugs or in viruses. Fort Knox is empty, huh? How do you know that, Danny? I want some proof. You got pictures of the inside of Fort Knox that it's empty? I don't know. Brooks Agnew for president 2024. You see, it can't happen. It can't happen. Why? Because I screwed everything up by the time I was 18 years old. Trust me. They go back, somebody's going to say, oh, I know that dude. And that would be the end of that presidency run. So don't worry about that. I don't have the ego to run for president. I'm not a sociopath. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about the muon accelerator. Yeah, you don't. What is a muon? Come on, guys. The fact that we're here at all is one of the greatest puzzles of physics. We are made from normal particles such as electrons and protons, and of course neutrons is a combination of protons and electrons, but every such particle also has an antimatter companion that is virtually identical to itself with the opposite charge. When matter and antimatter come in contact, they annihilate one another in a flash of light. Physics suggests that matter and antimatter were created in almost equal amounts in the Big Bang, if the Big Bang even happened. I'm not a big proponent of the Big Bang. So how come there are almost only matter left today? What happened to the antimatter? I mean, other than being used in Star Trek drives. A muon is almost identical to an electron, except that it's 207 times heavier, for one thing, and what's more, it decays into other particles in 2 millionths of a second. This lifetime, although short for us, is quite long for an unstable fundamental particle, and most of them only last a billionth of a second, or about 1,000th as much time. And this explains why muons make up almost all the charged cosmic rays which reach Earth's surface. We'll talk a little bit more about this right after the break. Don't go away. More X Squared Radio coming at you right after this.
Censorship and regulation is becoming an ever-growing problem in today's modern media. From the mainstream to YouTube and Google, the information you're looking for is buried by official narratives and propaganda. This is why TFR is 100% uncensored, unregulated, and listener-supported. The shows on TFR are not micromanaged by the station, and our hosts are free to speak their minds however they please. As such, the views and opinions expressed on our station are of those who make them. If you happen to hear anything offensive on TFR, please send us an email to toughtitty@tfrlive.com, and we'll be happy to tell you that we really don't give a damn. We stand for freedom of speech and non-censorship. If you also stand for free speech, you can go to tfrlive.com/signup and sign up for a TFR supporter pass and help us in our mission to keep the airwaves uncensored and unregulated. TFR Live, your uncensored and unregulated protection from deception.
Mitch McConnell is furious. I'm Jay Metzler, Fox News. The majority leader outraged that his coronavirus response bill failed to move forward in the Senate this evening. It needed 60 votes to do that, got just 47. Not a single Democrat in favor. Democrats calling the nearly $2 trillion measure a slush fund for big business, saying more money is needed for healthcare workers and average Americans struggling to make ends meet without a paycheck. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi working on a separate recovery bill.
We essentially at this point, this has been a trend over recent days, we represent shockingly about a third of the cases in the entire United States of America.
That's New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. As of this morning, the nation's largest city reporting nearly 10,000 coronavirus cases, nearly a third of them in Brooklyn. 63 of the cases fatal. And the mayor says the worst is yet to come. He says the city is 10 days away from running out of all critical medical supplies, from hospital beds to masks and ventilators. And he lashed out at President Trump.
In fact, he still has not fully utilized the Defense Production Act. He has not given orders to specific companies to not only produce those items that are needed most, starting with ventilators, but to ensure that they will be distributed to where the need is greatest here in New York and other key parts of the country.
At a news conference this evening, the president promising needed supplies are on the way. Neither feasible nor desirable. Former gold medal winning distance runner Sebastian Coe calling on the Tokyo Summer Olympics to be postponed. Lord Coe represents international track and field competitors. America is listening to Fox News.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
The wicked ones obviously under heavy Masonic influence.
Welcome back. Final hour, X Squared Radio tonight. Spring of 2020, I tell you, this is going to be a hell of a ride this year. 2020 is not only the roaring 20s, it's the rock and roaring 20s. It's going to be an interesting year. We're barely 3 months into it, and we've already seen the full gamut of world forces. A little bit of Second Amendment stuff. I like these Second Amendment stories. Police say a disabled Texas woman, she shot and killed an intruder and fended off another during an attempted home invasion at her Houston apartment this past week. Citing investigators, KHOU reported that on March 14th, two teens attempted to enter the woman's Northwest Houston apartment through a patio door during a brazen daylight home invasion. After shattering the woman's patio door, One of the would-be intruders then reached inside and attempted to unlock a door. That is when the resident reportedly fired one shot with her firearm, hitting one of the teens. The outlet did not disclose the woman's identity, referring to her simply as 53-year-old disabled resident. She was apparently home alone during the incident. Harris County deputies arrived at the scene and found an 18-year-old on the ground outside of the residence. The deputies reported finding the man in the grass. He was room temperature. 2 arrests were made following the botched burglary. Deputies told KHOU that an 18-year-old Ayanna Harrison and 17-year-old Aaron LaCour were quickly detained. Police said Harrison drove the other 2 teens to the woman's apartment and described her vehicle as a getaway car. Deputies said the getaway vehicle, a white 4-door Mercedes-Benz, is linked to other burglaries in the area. LaCour and Harrison are both facing felony murder charges relating to the death of the unidentified teen. You see, under Texas law, criminal offenses that result in the death of another person, regardless of the circumstances, can result in murder charges. This means that although LaCour and Harrison did not pull the trigger, their alleged actions in the relation to the botched home invasion resulted in the death of the other teen. They could spend the rest of their lives in prison. A white Mercedes-Benz. Wow. All right. Also in Ohio, tables were turned. Despite a state health order banning non-essential medical procedures during the coronavirus health emergency, Ohio abortion clinics remained open last week, just cranking away, $500 a whack. But after receiving complaints, Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost ordered 2 of them to follow Ohio Health Director Amy Action's mandate. Yost's warning applies to all such clinics in the state. However, operators of at least one of the clinics responded that they would both comply with Acton's order and continue to provide abortions. In other words, stick it where the sun don't shine. We're going to whack babies anyway. Quote, under that order, Planned Parenthood can still continue providing essential procedures, including surgical abortion, and our health centers continue to offer other health care services that our patients depend on. Our doors remain open for this care, said a joint statement from Iris E. Harvey and Kersha Dable, respectively presidents and CEO of Planned Parenthood of Greater Ohio and Planned Parenthood Southwest Ohio region. The latter runs an abortion clinic in Cincinnati. In his letter to the abortion providers, Yost said this: you and your facility are ordered to immediately stop performing non-essential and elective surgical abortions. Non-essential surgical abortions are those that can be delayed without undue risk to the current or future health of a patient. If you or your facility do not immediately stop performing non-essential or elective surgical abortions in compliance with the health director's order, the Department of Health will take all appropriate measures. Quote. Well, Wednesday of this last week, Acton issued an order saying, quote, all non-essential or elective surgeries and procedures that utilized personal protective equipment should not be conducted. The state is attempting to preserve supplies of equipment needed in combating the virus. But the reply from Planned Parenthood implies that there's no such thing as a non-essential abortion. Here's what they said. Abortion is an essential, time-sensitive medical procedure, as medical experts like the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists and the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology have recognized. After the Dispatch reported Yost's actions yesterday morning, a political firestorm quickly developed. Governor Mike DeWine and Acton were peppered with questions during their daily press conference, but mostly deflected inquiries to Yost and referred to the order itself. I am the doctor for 11.7 million people, and all women, no matter where they fall on this. We cannot allow the politics of things to get in the way of doing what we have to do in a state of emergency. NARAL, the pro-choice Ohio executive director Kelly Copeland, called abortion an essential health service and said state officials should not be exploiting the COVID-19 crisis to further their agenda to close Ohio's abortion clinics. Well, yeah, it's getting pretty sticky over there. But Yost was defended by Aaron Baer, president of Citizens for Community Values, who said in an emailed statement, and I quote, "Abortion is not health care, and abortionists shouldn't be using valuable life-saving medical equipment to destroy life." Attorney General Yost is standing up for our most vulnerable during this crisis and saving countless lives. A couple days ago, a spokesman for one of Ohio's abortion clinics wouldn't comment when contacted by the newspaper, but pointed to a statement from a consortium of gynecological groups saying the clinics should remain open. I don't think they're going to remain open. By performing surgical abortions, and this is the order that's coming down from actually a statement by Michael Goindakis, president of Ohio Right to Life. I was president of Tennessee Right to Life for the Rutherford County chapter, which is one of the largest chapters in the state. And I would have probably said this same thing. By performing surgical abortions, your company is putting the health and safety of all Ohioans in danger. Your current non-compliance will undoubtedly contribute to the spread of COVID-19 and put the lives of first responders, nurses, and doctors in danger. Although Yost's letters went only to Women's Medical Center in Dayton and Planned Parenthood of Southwest Ohio Cincinnati Surgical Center, the two about which Yost's office received complaints, Bethany McCorkey, Yost's communication director, said the order to stop all non-essential or elective surgeries and procedures that require personal protective equipment applies to all clinics, period. Later yesterday, Yost wrote a similar letter to the urology group in Cincinnati asking them to stop violating Acton's order. Yeah, it's kind of a slam dunk. We're talking about millions of dollars at risk here for the Planned Parenthood, and I think it's something that is probably going to be litigated. Let's see here. I don't know if I want to go into that. Letters to Congress. Maybe, because this is important. What's going on with COVID-19? Obviously, there are a lot of economic pressures as well. Not my plant, but several other businesses, bars, restaurants, etc., theaters, places where entertainment takes place, they're all shut down. And these people are out of work and they're not making any money, and the rent's going to come due in a few days. So I know this letter came out and is addressed to members of Congress. I know you all are working to determine the best response to help those negatively affected by this virus. I continue to hear that $1,000 to $2,000 to be paid out to every person. Well, we just saw that vetoed. We just heard that on the news. The Democrats all voted no. They basically said, screw you. We're going to starve you, and we want you pissed off as hell. And that's exactly what has happened. All of these people, restaurant workers, theater workers, places where people gather and have fun together, all of that is shut down, and all the people that run those places are shut down, and there's no hope in sight. The Democrats have removed all hope. They are standing as a political party against the American people. These proposed payments may be the wrong decision, and for a lot of reasons. They're not going to keep small businesses from letting employees go. People are going to lose their jobs. Not everyone is going to be let go. Some companies are going to keep the salaried people. The country will be taking on a considerable amount of new debt, because obviously at $500 billion a whack, this is going to add to the debt in a big hurry. The goal should be to keep as many people employed and businesses running, so the money should be used to sustain businesses and not necessarily the actual employees, because if the businesses go broke, there's no place for them to come back to. What are you going to do, make them all federal employees? You're not. You should immediately release the funds that are in the unemployment insurance for small businesses to cover payroll expenses for the next couple of months. That would be easy to do. The government has access to our 2019 quarter four payroll expenses to determine the amount needed to plan for our employees. They could easily release that. Additional funds to cover several months of fixed operating expenses such as rent, insurance, loan payments, that could be released. You could reduce the amount of time to process a small business administration loan. 2 months from now, government should reevaluate whether more funds are needed. And I can tell you, this letter is open letter to the Congress that says, as a small business owner of a catering company, my business was thriving 2 weeks ago. I have an amazing team, which I would like to keep intact instead of making the difficult decision to let people go so they can collect unemployment and so that I can save the business. If you focus relief funds on small businesses, especially in the hospitality sector, which cannot function normally under quarantine, then you will find fewer people out of work needing assistance. People would rather keep their jobs than be unemployed and receive a monthly check that does not cover their bills. I appreciate your consideration on my recommendations as a small business owner who has been directly affected. That letter went out, and here is my idea. I put out this idea of a 60-day jubilee. Now, I propose that a 60-day jubilee be enacted. This would call for all debt to be forgiven for 60 days with no usury, okay? No interest shall accrue for 60 days. The banks will lose nothing. All debt on cars, student loans, houses, apartment buildings, commercial buildings, etc. will stop for 60 days. All regular overhead payments of all kinds will stop for 60 days, including the current usage of utilities. No turning down the air conditioning or heating up the pools to take advantage. You're not gonna game the system. Whatever you paid the last 2 months, that's what you're going to be credited for the next 2 months. Employers can still let people go for 2 months or so and let them gather unemployment in the federal rebate funds. Those employees will not have to pay rent. They're not going to have car payments. They're going to buy nothing but food and medicine and gasoline. Got it? Now, when the virus is dead, people can go back to work, and the economy will recover very, very quickly this summer. The Jubilee will not last long enough for people to take great advantage or cheat the system. The pain will be shared and will not be severe or long-lasting, and that's my idea. Now, here's what the banks did today. In response to this, this is what the banks did. Are you ready for this? Homeowners struggling to make ends meet as the COVID-19 pandemic takes its toll on the U.S. economy will be able to postpone their mortgage payments for up to 12 months, according to mortgage backers Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The two government-sponsored enterprises said in a press release that loan servicers could suspend payments or up to a year for mortgage holders facing financial duress amid the CCP virus outbreak. Other forbearance measures include waiving penalties or late fees against borrowers, payment delays not being reported to credit agencies, special loss mitigation options typically only available in context of natural disasters, like loan modifications. That means putting your payments on the back of the loan. These measures are effective immediately, and they apply to borrowers who are unable to make their mortgage payments due to the decline in income resulting from the impact of the virus, regardless of whether they have contracted the virus or not. People gather at the entrance for the New York State Department of Labor offices, blah, 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 and a lot going on. The point is the banks have responded. And I have a news break, a flash news break. Trump said during a White House briefing that interest on federally held loans will be temporarily waived. Today, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos has instructed federal lenders to allow borrowers to suspend their student loans and student loan payments without penalty for at least the next 60 days. The president added that the time period could be extended depending on the state of the pandemic. How's that? How is that for being the voice of the revolution? You can't have any more power than that. Forget about being president of the United States. I'm John Q. Public, and we can do it right here from this little thing right here. This happened today. Today it happened. All right, let's see here. I want to cover this story, but I want to make sure to get the last segment in. I have a section on consciousness because David really likes these sections on consciousness in the chat room, and I want to cover this because it's time for us to raise our frequency, and this is an important thing to do. China has been part of the global syndicate for a long, long time, maybe 40 years. The U.S. powerhouse automotive and aerospace industries have been forced to shut up shop. Okay, that just happened. What we would normally see as a July shutdown for 7 days, 10 days, while they retool for the model years, it's now happening now. And I don't even know if maintenance is working. We are pumping out the product that we make as fast as we can make it, but our suppliers are having the hard time getting their tools and getting their PPAPs done on time. This is happening. And the reason that they've had to shut up shop is because the Chinese supplies, the tools, the parts, they've been interrupted. And there's a double whammy here because U.S. firms are asked to make employees stay home to avoid spreading the Wuhan virus. It has ground American manufacturing just about to a standstill. We're doing it. We're doing it, but we have very, very strict policies inside our plant. If it shows up inside our plant, it's all bets are off. But right now, the 2,000 people we have working inside our building, everything's okay. Everything's okay, and we hope it stays okay. Now, here's what needs to happen. We need to have an economic decoupling from China. Now, there's no better time than right now. I've been publicly screaming for years that American dependency on China for essential supplies should end. Yes, the current pandemic has exposed the fact that we are dependent on China for everything from iPhones and computers to clothing and footwear and Harley-Davidson motorcycles. The United States must immediately change course and begin cutting some of its economic ties with China while they're on their butts. And our military is strong enough to deter another Pearl Harbor. It was, after all, the wholesale disconnecting of America from Japanese after World War I that fomented the hatred that it took for Japan to sink the Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor. Not a good thing, this isolationism. But in October of 2019, A group of 15 business people, government officials, and health experts gathered around a table in New York to plan out the global response to a worldwide outbreak of never-before-seen and completely fictional coronavirus, October 2019. Now, it was merely a training exercise with disturbing similarities to the actual Chinese virus that was already underway infecting the world. 3.5 hours later, the group finished the simulation exercise. And despite their best efforts, they couldn't prevent the hypothetical coronavirus from killing 65 million people in their simulation. Fortunately, it didn't happen. The fictional coronavirus at the center of the Event 201 simulation was called CAPS, and it started with pigs in Brazil before spreading to farmers, not unlike how COVID-19 reportedly began with animals before spreading to people. In the simulation, CAPS infected people all across the globe within 6 months, and by the 18-month mark, it had killed 65 million people and triggered a global financial crisis. The players in the Event 201, it was experts from the United Nations, Centers for Disease Control, as well as several academics and representatives from private companies. In other words, they were the same types of people likely to plan the world's response to a real-world coronavirus pandemic. And that makes this exercise devastating outcome particularly troubling. But according to Event 201's organizers, the purpose of the simulation wasn't to stir up fear. Instead, they hoped it would serve as a learning experience. Well, things soon took a darker turn. President Trump knows exactly what had to be done and by whom. The Wuhan bioweapons lab had developed a nasty virus. It was either leaked by accident or on purpose. If it was done on purpose, it was either done by a dissident or by a government agent. China's government suppressed the news of the outbreak for 2 months, and then in early March threatened that if the Trump administration did not stop publicly blaming them for the outbreak and the suppression, China would elect to ban pharmaceutical exports to the U.S. In effect, this would have allowed the virus to kill millions unless Trump absolved China of any culpability. China supplies over 90% of the antibiotics used in the United States and some 95% of the ibuprofen the United States needs for anti-inflammatory medication. America is also reliant on China for a range of other pharmaceutical and medical supplies, including essential respirators, disposable items such as masks, gloves, and shields. Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas and Representative Mike Gallagher, a Republican from Wisconsin, introduced a bill this week, the Protecting Our Pharmaceutical Supply Chain from China Act, which aims, and by the way, I'm putting the link to the PDF in here so you can access it yourself in my notes. It aims to end U.S. dependence on China for pharmaceutical products. The Chinese Communist Party has threatened to cut off America's access to vital drugs. This is the war. So why haven't manufacturers left China already? I mean, for years, Western manufacturers such as BMW feared being shut out of the lucrative Chinese market if they did not base a portion of their component manufacturing and assembly operations there. Chinese manufacturers maintain monopolies on not just pharmaceuticals, but a wide range of other products as well. Lithium, cobalt, other critical materials, rare earth elements. We'll be right back after this. You don't go away. We'll be right back.
From the dawn of man, we have turned to nature to help attain balance within ourselves. But somewhere, we lost our way. Western culture is once again remembering the healing benefits of CBD, the non-psychoactive component of the hemp plant. That's why more and more people who use CBD report relief from inflammation and chronic pain, balanced blood sugar and cardiovascular system, relief from muscle tensions, tremors, migraines, headaches, anxiety, depression, and the list goes on. The big question is, where do you get it? IOLife is a 99% pure CBD oil made with all organic ingredients, and it's available to TFR listeners worldwide. If you use coupon code TFR at checkout, you'll get $5 towards your order. Head on over to iolife.com now. That's AYA-life.com.
This is iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio makes you want to move.
When you have a great melody,
a song lasts forever.
instantly connected.
I love it when the beat goes.
Did you know you can listen to Truth Frequency Radio on iHeartRadio? Just download the app to your smart car, smartphone, or smart TV and get the best of TFR wherever you are.
iHeartRadio. I'll see you there.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
He was the deputy director of MI6, Britain's most senior diplomat. He was knighted by the Queen and in charge of thousands of highly trained spies. But he was also a member of the Paedophile Information Exchange. He had 45 diaries full of sex fantasies with children. His friend was the private secretary of Margaret Thatcher. He strangled a child and hit another with his car. He raped young boys and organized orgies with children for other politicians.
The Enigma Channel, intelligent television for planet Earth. EnigmaTV.com.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
I've been waiting for this moment since my first breath in. Never would have thought I'd be afraid to begin, but here I am, the edge of the water, wondering if I can swim. Never seem to notice all the days pass through, but in this final moment, I'm still chasing the truth. I want an explanation why I can't stay here forever in my youth. And if I press on, will you wait? Will you wait for me forever? Or would it be wrong to ask you to come with? Tell me, will you wait?
Each of us has a unique soul address in the universe. We are part of a whole, and yet we are very powerful individuals with our own desires. And desire is what separates us from the angels. We are the only beings in the universe who can choose to act upon the universe on purpose. Every other being, sentient or otherwise, has to follow a program. We do not. Every action you take, every word you speak, every thought you think and dwell upon directly affects your vibrational frequency. Now, this is both inspiring and it's also scary. Yes, we can do great things. But if we are not in a great place or doing great things, we must realize that this is a direct result of our own decisions. Yes, the universe has inertia. That is to say, it has a force that must be pushed out of the way for us to progress. And yes, we can allow it to sit on us and we can allow it to oppress us. But it's our choice. We have the authority to order it out of our way and to open up the bounty of the universe for our mission. It helps us realize that we are the true creators of our world. But then the difference between an optimist and a pessimist, there really isn't much, you know. The optimist believes we live in the best of all possible worlds. And the pessimist fears that's true. It's a matter of frequency. One is a very high and it can travel to the ends of time. The other is very low and it travels, nowhere. Just like the song, Nowhere Man, we make nowhere plans for nobody. Isn't he a bit like you and me? Then there are well-known ways to raise your frequency. There are also a couple of secrets I'm about to give you. The first way that you can really raise your frequency almost immediately is through gratitude. Now, yes, you can go out in your backyard at dawn in your, rock garden or your Zen garden, and you can offer gratitude to, the morning air. And again, I guess it could raise your frequency artificially. But I think you should practice thankfulness every day. I think it's important to express gratitude to others for the things that they do. Not all of which is enjoyable, by the way, or particularly rewarding, by the way. Secretaries, processors, line workers, and even the mini-mart person taking your sale in the morning. They made that coffee and they fixed those biscuits that you pick up in the morning. You need to express your gratitude to those people because giving it feels great. Because it is a great energy to share. And you also affect that person's day as well. The second, I don't want to call this positive thinking because a lot of people do that. It's more positive states, okay? I know I'm thinking like a chemist, but hear me out. This is much more than just thinking positive thoughts. You see, insane people do that. Saying things are great when your shirt is on fire. It happens every day. Insane people do this every day. How you doing? I'm doing great. How come you're not wearing any shoes? See, clearing a place of negativity takes practice. Clutter, dirt, darkness, disorder, and fear. They make a place, a state that is not positive. You should open the windows and you should clean the glass on the windows so you have a crystal clear view of the outside. We have a philosophy in business. It's absolutely freaking magical. It's magical in its power to make a company successful. We call it 5S. Some of you may have heard of it, but we use it every single day. I have resurrected companies that were on the shit pile. They were getting ready to go bankrupt. Everybody was mad. They couldn't get anything out the door. I've transformed companies through 5S. The first S is sort. You sort everything. What are all these shovels doing next to the door? What are all these plastic pipes doing with the metal pipes? What are cinder blocks doing here with mortar on them? Why are they even in this building? It's called the abnormal. Sort all that out of the way. And then put it all back in order. Alphabetical if you have to, color if you have to, type if you have to. Everything in order. And then shine the place. Shine it. Clean the floor, clean the walls, clean the windows, clean the tools, put them back where they go. And standardize. Write work procedures if you have to make sure these things go back where they go. Put signs up, put labels, lines on the floor, a circle on the floor where the trash can goes. Drawings on your pegboard where your shovel and your broom and your pick and all that stuff go. And then sustain it. It makes a huge difference. David, thank you. Thank you so much for the $5. I'm particularly thankful for you, Brooks. You know, that humbles me. It just humbles me to the dust when you do that. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. The fact that you're thankful for it makes me valuable, and I feel good about that. I can go to sleep on that. I appreciate that. The point is, anything from a warehouse to a kitchen to a garage, it can be transformed into a positive state by investing the energy and thought into that space. Even your yard can be done this way. You don't have to go as far as we go sometimes. You don't need signs and labels and first in, first out racks, but everything from cupboards to the drawers to the closet can be made into a positive state. And let me tell you something, when you're in it, you feel good. Why? Because you have built your own universe. You've built your own universe, and it's not cluttered. Your desk, your closet, your drawer, everything ordered. It's great. And there are plenty of reference materials out there if you don't know where to get started. The third is high frequency foods. This is a big one, because we are what we eat. So first order is to give up sugar. Stop. Don't eat the Snickers bar. Don't eat that stuff. I mean, you can have sweets. Stevia and other sweeteners are out there that are totally natural, totally safe. Not refined sugar. It is bad for you. Low frequency. Eat pasta rarely. Pizza almost never. Never stuff yourself, okay? If you're eating to the point where you have to lean back and unsnap your pants, you've eaten too much. You should fast regularly, and you should drink plenty of fluids. Nobody feels good struggling to get out of a chair or having to give up, tying your own shoes. Come on, people. Make your own body or your dreams by eating the right foods for you. Okay? You are what you eat, and you shape yourself. So the fourth one is exercise. You can do yoga or similar practice, Tai Chi. You could shift your mental vibration. Practicing yoga helps you to reach higher states. That's great. But walking, lightweight training, elliptical machines, swimming, even regular sex are great for the biological transducer. This is world number one. Hard work is the good of this world, and it's very, very good for you. By the way, if I refer to World 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can learn about that by going to my website, brooksagnew.com. The 5 worlds of existence are posted there. Please read them. These are the 5 states of human existence. You can sort of cross over a little bit, but generally speaking, you're in one of these 5 all the time. The 5th one is meditation. Now, meditation increases awareness. It helps us gain control over the mind and the body. We teach this in the webinar. We talk about connecting the conscious mind with the subconscious mind, which is going way faster and has way more reach in the universe. Once you synchronize these two, not exactly, but on a harmonic that will pull you forward, you can greatly raise your awareness, and you can be aware of things that are going on around you energetically, and it can raise your vibration. Consistency is better than the length when it comes to this practice. For instance, it's better to meditate every day for 10 minutes than once a month for an hour. Aim to meditate daily in order to maintain a high vibrational state. Just don't do it while you're driving. Number 6, new adventures. Absolutely vital for raising your vibration. Do something new and exciting. It's the key to living a fulfilling life. If you don't know what to do, then you need to build yourself a future book. I call it journaling. I give a course in it. It's part of the second module in the Second Chance Mentoring. I think we're going to teach one in April. We're definitely teaching one in May. It's listed on my website, brooksagnew.com. You get a signed copy of the book, which has all the instructions in it, and you should pick up a journal and we'll teach you how to fill that out. That's how you do new adventures. First, you target them in writing. When we get stuck in a rut, and make no mistake, people, a routine is a rut. If you're in a routine, you're not alive. You're just dying. You're just dying slowly while breathing air. Okay? If you're in a routine, you're in a rut. Our energy becomes stagnant. It becomes stale. The only thing that's going to change over time, you might be able to pay some debt off, but you're going to get more wrinkles around your eyes and more pudge around the middle. And that's the only thing that's going to change. Opening yourself up to new experience, new people, new situations, it can give you the wake-up call that you need. Take matters into your own hands and plan a spur-of-the-moment trip. I don't mean take off to Moscow. We're doing that, but it's not by spur of the moment. Take a painting class. They're everywhere. Go to Meetup and you can find one. Just doesn't matter if you can paint. Just go. Just go. They'll give you the paints, the brushes, the canvas. For $20, you can have a wonderful time and you can meet very cool people. And painting is a great way to raise your frequency. Sign up for a short class of anything, from, how to set up a fruit tray to how to doing your own breaks. I mean, if you have a skill pop in your town, they're not everywhere, but you can go to skillpop.com. Check it out if they have an outlet in your city. There is a little of world number 3 and world number 2 in this. A little bad, a little good, a bit of both. Okay? New adventures. Number 7, open your heart. No drama. This is a method whereby you explore the universe throughout all time and eternity through your heart. Oh, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. You can discover things that will blow your mind. A person with an open heart can never be in prison. They can never be oppressed. You can walk where you want, and you will know you are safe and in the light. Now, this number 8 isn't for everybody, because some people don't live where you can do this, but you should enjoy nature. It's an easy one for some people, but even in Manhattan, there is some nature. There are parks, there are places you can go. Make time to step outdoors, okay? Even if it's just for a quick stroll around the block. We can all find the time to breathe fresh air, stick our feet in the earth, walk on the sand, hug a tree, plant a flower, watch the bees or hummingbirds. You can enjoy nature indoors too by striving to make a connection with your plants. You can sing to them, you can talk to them, you can prune them, you can fertilize them, take the spider webs off of them. You can enjoy the practice of connecting with Mother Earth and allowing that cleansing vibration to take place. I used to love, absolutely love, to walk in the woods when it's snowing. There are always woods close by where I live, and when it's snowing, it is the most amazing, peaceful feeling to walk in the woods when it's snowing. You don't have to worry about snakes. You don't have to worry about walking into a spider web. It's so peaceful. It's so wonderful. Number 9, seek out new knowledge. Seek new opportunities to learn and grow. Read new books, participate in programs, listen to podcasts, attend seminars. That's a great one. The world is your oyster. So becoming aware of the truths of the world can help align us with something that is much larger than we think we are. Learning something new expands our awareness and allows us to adopt a more well-rounded, big picture view of how the world works. I like to go to science museums. Totally fascinating. Always learn something new. Number 10, express your creativity. Have fun on your quest to raise your vibration. I like to draw. I love to sing karaoke. I like to dance. You should try your hand at photography. Whatever seems enjoyable and allows you to express yourself, especially your creativity. People will say, dude, I didn't even know you had that in you. Yeah, I mean, this is very high vibrational. I mean, if you feel you're in a creative rut, which most of us are, if you're in a routine, I like to go to museums. I like to go to the beach. I like to listen to albums I haven't listened to in a while with the music up. You can practice automatic writing, see what shapes and words emerge. You can try writing a book. People say, oh, I can't write a book. Yes, you can. All you have to do is write a paragraph a day, just 100 or so words a day. Yeah, it will take you a while to write a good-sized book, but you'd be surprised. If you can write a page a day, in 1 year, you'll have 365 pages. Yes? 365 pages along the same thought line. You could tell a story. You could reveal some truth. You could explain some process. 365 pages, a very respectable book. And writing a book in 1 year, that's productive. Number 11, and this is almost the most important one on the list, is the release. I teach this in the webinar. I'm going to give you a very, very brief. Harboring unpleasant thoughts, painful memories, grudges, it can keep us in a low vibrational state. Wishing for things, building things, hoping for things. This can also lower your vibration. Why? Because it creates a cynicism. Why isn't this happening? I've been working on this for so long. Fail, fail, fail. Go from one failure to the other. You have to learn to release. And it may sometimes mean releasing relationships as well. It's hard to do. But once you take flight, you will rarely look back. Focus on the breath and imagining releasing all that doesn't serve you to the wind. This is often an astral experience, and I explain this a lot more in the book and the lecture on remembering the future. Number 12. The strength of silence. Not much is written on this, or maybe too much is written on this. It doesn't explain it the right way. Did you know that when you do not open your mouth, the demons cannot know what you were thinking? It's true. It's called enmity, and you have it. Silence is one of the most powerful forces for focusing the will of the human soul. Speaking is actually a shunt to ground for your power when you need every ounce of it to accomplish your mission. Focusing on the task and the delivery of your energy is extremely powerful if you choose every word perfectly and the way it is said. almost as important as the word itself. The best can be done by looking back at the situation from the future. It takes a little skill, but I can teach you how to do it. And number 13. Love without fear. Very important thing. Love without fear. I'm not talking about having sex with everyone who asks for it. I'm not talking about putting yourself at risk emotionally. Trust is a very hard thing to give. I know this, especially as you grow older. We tend to always hold back. We tend to keep ourselves secret. It's called compartmentalization. We all do it. We also cannot truly love when we do this. So I recommend turning pages, one at a time. Have you ever met someone who will tell you their whole life story, or anyone who will sit around long enough to listen to it? Yeah, I have too. Have you met someone who laughs at the end of everything they say? You see, that's a sign of insecurity. That is fear talking. Resolve to do this. Make yourself into a book of sorts. Open it to the title page with whomever you choose. And when you get done with that page, pause and reflect and consider the frequency of the sharing. If it feels good, then go on to the next page. But just one page. As you continue forward in truth, you don't have to compartmentalize. You're just doing a page, step by step. In fact, tell them you are going to go step by step. Be open and hold back the next page until it's time to turn that page. Before long, one of two things will happen. Either both of you will have a great time, showering together, sharing dreams, making plans, or you've gone as far as you can. When the frequency begins to fall off and the lights go dim, just don't turn the page. It is at this point that understanding becomes a weapon that can and most certainly will be used against you. The narcissist will expose themselves every single time. Leave them on that page and move on. This will break the cycle of pain and disappointment in your life. Remember, resonance is the greatest power in the universe. In fact, God set it up so that without it, the third dimension couldn't even occur. Nothing will survive without it unless you keep investing time and energy. And unfortunately, a lot of people do. This is precisely why bad relationships drain you of every last drop of life energy. So, if you need a refresher on this, I'll put these notes. You can access them by going to tfrlive.com/X2 Radio. Click on the notes, or you can subscribe to my newsletter, because we put out these main points in the newsletter and always will make these available to you. All right? That's easy to do. You can sign up for the newsletter by going to brooksagnew.com. Right there on the front page is a link to the newsletter. It's free. It means it don't cost nothing. Just sign up. We'll send it to you a few times a week, and you can read it or not read it. I encourage you to read it because there's always great stuff in there. Go out and look for the good in people every day and help it to grow. And before long, you will save the planet. This is X Squared Radio on the America Free Radio Studio on the Truth Frequency Radio Network. And my name is Brooks Agnew. And I say, peace, Earth Explorers. We'll see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. right here on YouTube Live. Thanks.